And this is where some of Britain's top voices speak out on controversial issues without the fear of the cancel culture sweeping the rest of the media. Now, if Plan B measures such as working from home are implemented this week, it could bring the recovery of the hospitality industry to a shuddering halt. And one person who knows all too well about the impact of COVID restrictions on businesses is my next guest, one of the country's top businessmen, director, co-owner of Gales and Brompton Bicycles and chairman of Brighton Pier Group, Luke Johnson. Luke, who made his name growing Pizza Express in the 90s, has been critical of Boris Johnson's scaremongering. He wrote on Twitter on Friday, the chaos of the testing mania and isolating doom loop means running an organisation becomes almost impossible. Remember, 10 million can't work from home or society shuts down and we starve. Luke, it's great to have you on the show. Why do you think the government seem to be constantly ignoring all of the collateral damage that Plan B will cause, especially for businesses?
I'm not sure. I fear that they're caught in a sort of safety-first mania, which means that they are simply not taking into account at all the harms that lockdown and the other restrictions and the fear are causing. And I know from direct experience, you know, these are the few weeks of the year when many businesses in things like entertainment and hospitality make most of their profits for the whole annual period. And they need that cash in order to survive through the desperate months of January and February. And already I would say that the scaremongering by government, the talk last night of an emergency and a tidal wave of infections and the consequences of that, not exactly what I would call sober or very scientific language, mean that, cancellations and to a degree for a great many, restaurants, pubs, clubs and other venues, Christmas is already dead. Yeah. And the harm is being done. And this for a new variant where we really don't know whether it's actually quite mild.
Well, all of the signs are good. I mean, you speak to the scientists in South Africa and they think we're going mad. Plan B obviously includes the introduction of vaccine passports. It's going to be nodded through, even despite this big Tory rebellion, likely because of Labour. Do you worry, like I do, Luke, that this is some sort of creep? Because I don't think vaccine passports are just going to remain for large events. You can see in January when cases rise, as they are inevitably going to, you're going to have to show a vaccine passport to buy a Big Mac or to order a pint in the pub. And that would be catastrophic for the hospitality industry.
Well, and also I think it is a very profound intrusion on people's freedom.
Well, indeed.
That, they disclose their personal medical procedures. And the truth is, will vaccine passports even be effective in terms of trying to achieve what they're attempting to, which is to coerce or blackmail people into taking vaccines? I'm very pro-vaccines, and I think we should make every effort to persuade people to take the vaccines. But the fact of the matter is, like so many of the restrictions, the lockdowns and all the rest, the proof of their efficacy is nowhere to be seen.
No.
And we look at places like Sweden and we realise that all this misery, all the collateral damage, all the people suffering from things like cancer who are being neglected, treated as second-class citizens because we have a monomania about a single disease. We've turned the NHS into the national COVID service because the country has become completely obsessed about a single illness, which right now is killing well under 10% of all those people who die. What about the other 90% who are dying? Don't we care about them and all the other harms that it's doing to the rest of the society, from mass anxiety to destroying children's education? And it feels to me as if the government has lost the plot.
And Luke, why do you think there hasn't been that many major voices from business to cut through over the course of these business-destroying lockdowns? You've been one of the few.
I think the government has thrown hundreds of billions at business to keep it quiet, to keep it on the road, and to a degree, I agree with that, because I think if they hadn't have had furlough, we would have had 10% unemployment. So I think, in a sense, that was a good thing. But I also think it's been a bribe, and I also think there's industrial quantities of virtue signalling going on by an awful lot of people who feel that they don't want to step out of line, they don't want to be contrarian, and they think that arguing against the narrative is going to damage their reputations.
And what about the media, Luke? I mean, you have some experience. You were the former chairman of Channel 4, of course. Why has the media been so compliant when it comes to pushing the lockdown narrative?
Well, I think fear sells, and I think, if it bleeds, it leads. And I think, I'm afraid to say, that a lot of the media have sold bad news because I think it gets clicks and views. And I also think, actually, the rules introduced last year that forced, from Ofcom, that forced the broadcasters in particular to not transmit anything that would necessarily disagree with the government's narrative, because, of the implication it's a national emergency, means that I think particularly the major news broadcasters have been very timid about suggesting that, for example, the lockdowns cause huge collateral damage, which has not been properly measured and not set against, in a proper cost-benefit analysis, set against the possible advantages of these restrictions, which I would argue, again, are unproven.